This story is very meaningful. Everyone should hear it. Listen to Brian tell the story. My name is Mia Carter, and I'm a 15-year-old girl who spent most of her life feeling like a shadow in her own family. I live in a quiet suburb of Philadelphia, in a house that looks perfect from the outside. Red brick, white shutters, a manicured lawn. But inside, it's a different story. My parents, David and Lisa Carter, are obsessed with appearances. My dad's a mid-level exec at a real estate firm, always chasing the next big client, while my mom's a part-time event planner who cares more about her social circle than her kids. Then there's my sister Alex, 17, the golden child who can do no wrong. Me? I'm the afterthought, the one who gets the hand-me-downs and the leftover attention. I've got curly brown hair I can never tame, hazel eyes that always look tired, and a habit of biting my nails when I'm nervous. I'm not loud or bold like Alex, just quiet, observant, and maybe a little too good at bottling things up. But on March 11th, 2025, my 15th birthday, everything changed. That was the day I got cornered and beaten bloody by Alex and her friends in a janitor's closet at school, all because I dared to fight back against the family that had abandoned me. Here's how it all went down. It started 3 days earlier, on the morning of my birthday. I woke up to sunlight streaming through my window, a rare feeling of hope bubbling in my chest. Birthdays were never a big deal for me. Alex always got the lavish parties, but today felt different. I pulled on my favorite sweater, a faded green one with a tiny hole in the sleeve, and headed downstairs. My parents were in the kitchen, grinning like they'd won the lottery. "Mia," Dad said, his voice booming with excitement, "we've got a surprise for you. We're taking the family to the Poconos for your birthday." My heart leapt. The Poconos? A real trip? I could already picture it. Snow-capped mountains, a cozy cabin, maybe even a cake with my name on it. "Really?" I asked, my voice shaky with disbelief. Mom nodded, her perfectly styled blonde hair bouncing. "Pack your bags, sweetie. We leave this afternoon." I ran upstairs, practically tripping over myself, and started shoving clothes into my duffel bag. For once, I felt seen. But that feeling didn't last. A few hours later, I dragged my bag downstairs, humming to myself, only to find the house eerily quiet. Dad's car was gone from the driveway. Mom's purse wasn't on the counter. Then I saw Alex, leaning against the kitchen island, smirking like a cat that caught a mouse. "Where's Mom and Dad?" I asked, my stomach twisting. Her smile widened, and I knew something was wrong. "Oh, Mia," she said, her tone dripping with fake pity. "You didn't think you were coming, did you?" My bag slipped from my hand, hitting the floor with a dull thud. "What?" I whispered. She stepped closer, holding out a piece of paper. "They're gone. It's just you and this now." I took the paper with trembling fingers. A chore list. Vacuum the living room, clean the bathrooms, fold the laundry. "They decided you should stay home and study," she continued. "You know, since finals are coming up. I mean, I finished my work so I get to go. But you? You're better off here." She laughed, a sharp, cruel sound that made my chest ache. "Happy birthday, sis." I stood there, frozen, as the truth sank in. The trip was a lie, or at least my part in it was. "Where are they?" I managed to ask, my voice cracking. "At the airport by now," Alex said, shrugging. "I stayed behind to break the news. You're welcome." She grabbed her jacket and headed for the door, pausing to look back at me. "Oh, and don't cry about it. It's not a good look." Then she was gone, the slam of the front door echoing through the empty house. I stumbled upstairs, my legs heavy, and collapsed onto my bed. The tears came fast and hard, soaking my pillow as I curled into a ball. I'd always known Alex hated me. She'd made that clear with years of snide comments and petty sabotage. But this was a new low. And my parents, the ones who were supposed to love me, had let her do it, on my birthday. I cried until my throat burned and my eyes stung, but then something shifted. The sadness hardened into anger, hot and sharp, coursing through me like fire. I sat up, wiping my face with my sleeve, and made a decision. If they thought they could ditch me and get away with it, they were wrong. I wasn't going to sit here and scrub toilets while they sipped hot chocolate in the mountains. I was going to make them pay. I crept into Dad's office, my heart pounding. His MacBook sat on the desk, unlocked as always. He was too arrogant to think anyone would touch it. I opened his contacts and started dialing. "Hi, Mr. Harris. It's Mia, David's daughter. We're throwing a surprise anniversary party for my parents tonight at 7. Can you come?" One by one, I called his coworkers and clients, my voice sweet and innocent. Most of them chuckled and said yes, charmed by the idea of a kid planning something so cute. Then I moved to Mom's phone, left carelessly on the counter, and invited her book club friends and yoga buddies. Finally, I opened Instagram on my phone and messaged Jake, Alex's boyfriend. "Hey, it's Mia. Big surprise party at our house tonight for Alex's family. You in?" He replied with a quick, "Hell yeah," and I smirked. Step 1, complete. Next, I texted my friends, Fiona, Ethan, and Maya. They'd been bummed when I canceled our birthday plans earlier, thinking I was off to the Poconos, so they jumped at the chance to help. By late afternoon, they were at my house, arms full of streamers and balloons. Fiona, my best friend since kindergarten, eyed me warily as we hung a happy anniversary banner in the living room. "Mia, you sure about this?" she asked, brushing her dark bangs out of her eyes. "What if it backfires?" I taped a balloon to the wall, my hand steady despite the nerves buzzing in my chest. "It won't," I said. "They deserve it." Ethan, a lanky kid with a mop of red hair, grinned as he blew up another balloon. "This is epic, like a movie." Maya, quieter and more cautious, just nodded, but I could see the excitement in her brown eyes. We turned the house into a party zone, lights, music, snacks, and waited. At 7, the guests started arriving. Mr. Harris, Dad's balding coworker, clapped me on the shoulder. "Where's the happy couple?" he asked, looking around. "Soon," I said with a tight smile. Mom's friend Susan complimented the decorations, oblivious to the storm brewing. Jake showed up in a leather jacket, scanning the room for Alex. By 7:30, the house was packed, and the energy was electric. I grabbed Ethan's karaoke mic and climbed onto a chair, my palms sweaty. "Everyone, thanks for coming," I called out, my voice echoing over the chatter. The room quieted, all eyes on me. "This isn't an anniversary party, it's my 15th birthday, and I threw it to tell you the truth about my family." I spilled everything, how my parents promised me a trip, how Alex convinced them to leave me behind, how they didn't even have the guts to tell me themselves. I held up the chore list, my hands shaking with a mix of rage and triumph. "This is what they left me with today," I said, my voice breaking. "They treat me like a servant while Alex gets everything. I'm done hiding it." The room went silent. Mr. Harris's jaw dropped. Susan whispered to another woman, her eyes wide. Jake shifted uncomfortably, his face pale. I stepped down, my legs wobbly, and Fiona squeezed my arm. "You did it," she whispered. Guests started leaving, some quietly, some stopping to hug me or mutter condolences. Jake lingered, then said, "I didn't know she was like that," before walking out. I snapped a group photo before everyone was gone and sent it to my parents and Alex. "Great birthday party. Starting your list now, Alex." Their replies came fast. Angry texts demanding I fix the mess, saying they were cutting their trip short. I blocked them all, my heart racing with a strange mix of fear and freedom. I packed a bag and headed to Fiona's house a few blocks away. Her parents, the Thompsons, welcomed me with open arms. "You're safe here, Mrs. Coe," Thompson said, her voice soft as she handed me a mug of tea. I sank into their couch, finally letting the exhaustion hit me. For the first time that day, I felt like I could breathe. The next morning, my parents showed up at Fiona's, banging on the door so hard the frame rattled. "Mia, get out here," Dad yelled, his voice sharp enough to slice through the quiet morning air. I froze halfway down the hall, my bare feet cold against the hardwood floor. Mr. Thompson was already at the door, his broad shoulders filling the frame like a wall. "You've got no business here after what you did," he said, his tone steady but laced with steel. Mom's voice shot back, shrill and desperate, cutting through the tension like a siren. "She humiliated us. Our coworkers won't even talk to us. Do you know what she's cost us?" I peeked around the corner, my stomach twisting into knots. Their faces were flushed, Dad's jaw tight, Mom's eyes wild with fury. Fiona grabbed my hand, her fingers warm against my clammy skin, and yanked me back toward the kitchen. "You don't have to face them," she whispered, her green eyes fierce with protectiveness. But then Dad's voice boomed again, louder this time. "We'll sue you for this, Thompson. Harboring our daughter like she's yours. We'll take you to court." My heart sank. I couldn't let Fiona's family get dragged into a legal mess because of me. "Let them in," I said to Mr. Thompson, my voice barely above a whisper, trembling like a leaf in the wind. He turned, his gray eyes searching mine for a moment, then sighed and stepped aside. They stormed in like a hurricane, Dad's loafers thudding against the floor, Mom's heels clicking sharply. The living room felt smaller with them in it, the air thick with their anger. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Mom snapped, her hands clenched so tight her knuckles were white. "Our reputation is in tatters, Mia. Susan won't return my calls, and your father's biggest client dropped him yesterday." Dad loomed over me, his tie loose and his hair disheveled, a far cry from the polished man I knew. "You had no right to drag my associates into this. None." I stood my ground, though my legs felt like jelly, and the anger I'd buried the night before flared up again. "And you had no right to ditch me on my birthday," I shouted, my voice cracking as tears burned my eyes. "You let Alex call the shots, and I'm sick of being nothing to you. You've ruined my life, and I'll never forgive you." Mom's mouth opened, then closed, like she couldn't find words sharp enough. Dad's face darkened. "You ungrateful little," he started, but Mrs. Thompson cut in, stepping between us with a calm that felt like a shield. "That's enough, David," she said, her voice low but firm. "You've said your piece. Now leave." Dad glared at her, but Mr. Thompson moved closer, his presence a quiet threat, and they finally backed off. "This isn't over," Mom hissed as they retreated to the door. Fiona pulled me into the kitchen, her arms wrapping around me as I shook, my breath ragged. "They're gone," she murmured, her voice soft against my ear. "You're okay now." We sat at the kitchen table, the silence heavy. Mrs. Thompson slid a plate of pancakes in front of me, her warm brown eyes full of concern. "Eat something, Mia," she said gently. "You need your strength." I picked at the food, my appetite gone, but the sweetness of the syrup grounded me a little. Mr. Thompson joined us, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "Mia," he said, his voice serious, "we've been talking. What they did, it's not just cruel, it's neglect. You should think about emancipation." I looked up, my fork pausing midair. "You mean legally cutting them off?" Mrs. Thompson nodded. "You deserve better than this, honey. We'd support you every step." Fiona squeezed my hand under the table, her smile small but encouraging. The idea was huge, terrifying, but a flicker of hope sparked in my chest. "I'll think about it," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. That afternoon, someone new entered the picture. I was scrolling on my phone, trying to distract myself, when a DM popped up from Helen Carter 62. "Mia, I'm your mom's cousin. We need to talk about what happened. Can we meet?" I frowned, showing it to Fiona. "Never heard of her," I said, my brow furrowing. Fiona chewed her lip, her habit when she's nervous. "Could be a trick. Maybe your mom sent her." But the message felt different, direct, not manipulative. I typed back, "Who are you really?" Her reply came fast. "I haven't seen you since you were 2. I heard about the party from Susan. I've got something you need to see." Curiosity gnawed at me, outweighing the fear. "Okay," I wrote, "Fiona's house, 3 p.m. Helen arrived right on time. A wiry woman with gray-streaked hair pulled into a messy bun and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through me. She carried a beat-up shoebox under one arm and nodded at me as Mrs. Thompson let her in. "You've grown," she said, her voice rough but warm. We sat at the dining table, Fiona hovering nearby, her arms crossed like a bodyguard. Helen set the box down and looked at me. "I've been out of touch with Lisa for years," she began, "but when Susan told me what you did, I knew it was time." She opened the box, revealing stacks of yellowed envelopes. "These are letters your mom wrote me, back when you and Alex were little." She slid one across the table, dated October 2010, a month after I was born. My hands shook as I unfolded it, the paper brittle under my fingers. Mom's handwriting stared back at me. "Mia's a mistake. I didn't want her. David insisted we keep her. She's ruining everything." The words hit like a punch, stealing my breath. I dropped the letter, my vision blurring with tears. Fiona gasped, grabbing my shoulder. "Mia," she whispered. Helen's expression softened. "I kept these because I knew one day you'd need proof. They've never valued you, kid. I'm here to help you break free." I couldn't speak, my throat tight with a mix of shock and validation. All those years of feeling invisible, it wasn't my imagination. It was real, written in black ink. "Why now?" I finally asked, my voice hoarse. Helen leaned forward, her hands clasped. "Because you're fighting back. I wish I'd stepped in sooner, but I'm here now. Whatever you need, testimony, a place to crash, I've got you." Fiona hugged me, her warmth pulling me back from the edge. "Thank you," I mumbled to Helen, still reeling. She nodded, a faint smile tugging at her lips. You're tougher than they think. The next few days blurred together, a mix of quiet moments with Fiona and tense waiting for my parents' next move. I'd blocked their numbers, but that night, an email slipped through from Dad's work address. I stared at it on my phone, my finger hovering over delete. Don't open it, Fiona warned, sprawled on her bed across from me. But I had to know. I tapped it, my heart pounding. Mia, it started. We're sorry you misunderstood. The Poconos was a client perk. New spa opening, a big deal for me. We planned it around your birthday as a treat, but Alex worried about your finals. We didn't want your grades to tank. She was trying to help. I scoffed, my anger flaring. Help? Leaving me with a chore list was help? It went on. You didn't need to drag our friends into this. We're humiliated. Clients dropping me, Lisa's ostracized. If you'd called us, we'd have come back. We feel awful, but this got out of hand. Let's talk. I deleted it mid-sentence, my hands trembling. It was all excuses, no real apology, just them scrambling to save face. Then came the real chaos. It was Friday, a week after my birthday, and I was leaving English class in the East Wing of Westwood High. I'm always slow packing up, my bag's a mess of notebooks and pens, a chaotic tangle I can never seem to organize, so the halls were nearly empty when I stepped out. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting long shadows on the chipped linoleum floor. I adjusted my backpack, the strap digging into my shoulder, and took a deep breath, savoring the quiet after a long day. That's when I saw them. Alex, Taylor, and two other girls from her clique, Leah and Cassie, standing in a semicircle at the end of the hall, blocking my path like a pack of wolves. My stomach dropped, a cold sweat prickling my skin as my sneakers squeaked to a stop. Going somewhere, loser? Alex sneered, her blonde hair pulled tight into a high ponytail, swaying slightly as she tilted her head. Her blue eyes glinted with malice, sharp and unyielding, the same look she'd given me 100 times before. I swallowed hard, my throat dry, and tried to sidestep, keeping my head down. But Taylor, a tall, wiry senior with a buzz cut and a mean streak that made her infamous, lunged forward, grabbing my arm. Her nails dug into my skin, sharp and biting, and she shoved me back with a force that made me stumble. Not so fast, she said, her voice low and taunting, a grin splitting her freckled face. Leah giggled, twirling a strand of her dark hair around her finger, her round cheeks flushed with excitement, while Cassie smirked, arms crossed over her chest, her sharp jaw set in quiet approval. You think you're a big deal now? Alex stepped closer, her breath hot on my face, smelling faintly of mint gum and spite. Jake dumped me because of your little stunt. You're gonna pay. My heart hammered in my chest, a wild, frantic rhythm I couldn't control. I glanced around, hoping for a teacher, a janitor, anyone, but the hall was a ghost town, the last stragglers long gone. I didn't do anything to Jake, I said, my voice shaky but defiant, clutching my backpack straps like a lifeline. Alex laughed, a harsh, grating sound that echoed off the lockers. Oh, please, she spat, shoving my shoulder hard enough to make me stagger. You trashed us to everyone and he bought your sob story. He's gone, and it's your fault. Taylor tightened her grip, twisting my arm until I winced, her eyes gleaming with cruel delight. Should have stayed in your lane, she muttered, leaning in close. Leah stepped forward, her sneakers squeaking, and flicked my hair with a mocking grin. What's wrong, Mia? No party to save you now? Cassie stayed silent, but her smirk widened, her hazel eyes cold and calculating as she watched. Before I could respond, a new voice cut through the tension, low and gravelly, with a hint of amusement. What's this, a little after-school showdown? I turned my head, my breath catching, and saw Mr. Vega, the school's night custodian, leaning against a mop in the doorway of a classroom a few yards away. He was a wiry guy in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and a faded tattoo peeking out from his rolled-up sleeve, always grumbling about kids leaving trash in the halls. His dark eyes flicked over us, narrowing slightly. Alex straightened, her sneer faltering for a split second, but she recovered fast. Mind your own business, old man, she snapped, tossing her ponytail. Taylor loosened her grip on me, just enough for me to yank my arm free, but she didn't back off. We're just talking, she said, her tone dripping with fake innocence. Mr. Vega raised an eyebrow, resting the mop against the wall with a slow, deliberate move. Looks like more than talking to me, he said, his voice steady. You girls want me to call Reynolds down here? She loves a good Friday drama. Alex's jaw tightened, and I could see the gears turning in her head. She hated being challenged, but she wasn't stupid. Principal Reynolds didn't mess around. Whatever, she muttered, stepping back, her eyes still locked on me. This isn't over, Mia. But before she could retreat, another figure appeared at the far end of the hall. Ethan, my lanky, red-headed friend from the party, his backpack slung over one shoulder. He froze, his wide blue eyes taking in the scene, then started jogging toward us. Mia, what's going on? He called, his voice high with worry. Taylor cursed under her breath, and Leah's giggle cut off abruptly. Let's go, Cassie said quietly, tugging Alex's sleeve. But Alex wasn't done. She lunged at me, her fist connecting with my cheek in a blinding flash of pain. I stumbled back, my head ringing, and Ethan shouted, "Hey!" as he reached us. Mr. Vega moved faster than I'd ever seen, stepping between us with his mop raised like a makeshift barrier. That's enough, he barked, his voice booming. Alex froze, her fist still clenched, breathing hard. Ethan grabbed my arm, steadying me as I clutched my throbbing face. You okay? He whispered, his freckled face pale. I nodded, though the pain made my eyes water. Taylor smirked at Mr. Vega. What are you going to do, sweep us out? She taunted, but her bravado was shaky. Try me, he shot back, his tone icy. Alex glared at me, her chest heaving, then spat on the floor. We're not done, she hissed, before turning on her heel. Taylor, Leah, and Cassie followed, their footsteps fading down the hall as Mr. Vega lowered the mop, his expression grim. You hurt? He asked, his voice softer now. I touched my cheek, wincing at the tender spot already swelling. I'll be fine, I mumbled, though my hands were shaking. Ethan hovered beside me, his worry palpable. That was insane, he said, running a hand through his messy hair. We need to tell someone. Mr. Vega nodded, pulling a walkie-talkie from his belt. I'm calling it in. You two get to the office. Reynolds will want to see you. I hesitated, fear creeping in. Telling on Alex would make things worse, but hiding it hadn't worked either. Okay, I said finally, my voice small. Ethan slung an arm around my shoulders, guiding me down the hall as Mr. Vega's voice crackled over the radio, reporting the fight. By the time we reached the principal's office, my adrenaline was crashing, leaving me cold and shaky. Principal Reynolds, a stern woman with gray hair pulled into a tight bun and glasses perched on her nose, looked up from her desk as we walked in. What's this about? She asked, her tone clipped. Ethan nudged me forward, and I took a deep breath, my cheek still throbbing. Alex and her friends jumped me after class, I said, my voice trembling. Mr. Vega stopped them. Her eyes narrowed, and she jotted something on a notepad. Witnesses? She asked. Me, Ethan piped up. And Mr. Vega. She nodded, picking up her phone. Sit, she said, pointing to the chairs. We're pulling the footage. This ends now. We sat there, the clock ticking loudly, as she made calls, to security, to Mr. Vega, to the front office. My mind raced, replaying Alex's fists, Taylor's grip, the venom in their voices. I'd wanted them to pay, but this felt bigger, scarier. Ethan fidgeted beside me, tapping his foot. You did the right thing, he said quietly. They can't keep getting away with this. I nodded, but doubt gnawed at me. Alex wouldn't let this go. She'd come for me harder next time. 20 minutes later, Mr. Vega poked his head in, his face grim. Cameras caught it all, he said to Reynolds. Hallway in the closet. They dragged her in there first. My stomach twisted, the memory of that dark, suffocating space flooding back. Reynolds's lips pressed into a thin line. Thank you, Vega, she said. I'll handle it. He glanced at me, a flicker of sympathy in his eyes, then left. Reynolds turned to us. Mia, I'm calling your guardians. Ethan, you're free to go, but I'll need a statement later. Ethan squeezed my hand before heading out, leaving me alone with her stern gaze. This is serious, she said, her voice softening slightly. We'll get to the bottom of it. You're safe here. But I didn't feel safe, not yet. The Thompsons arrived within the hour, Fiona bursting through the door ahead of them, her dark bangs falling into her eyes as she rushed to me. Mia, she cried, throwing her arms around me, careful not to squeeze too hard. Ethan called me. What happened? Mr. Thompson followed, his broad frame tense, while Mrs. Thompson's face was a mask of worry and anger. Alex hit me, I said, my voice breaking as the bruise on my cheek pulsed. Her friends helped. Fiona's eyes blazed. That bitch, she hissed, pulling back to look at me. You're a mess. Mrs. Thompson knelt beside me, brushing my hair back gently. "We're taking you home," she said, her voice trembling with barely contained rage, "and we're pressing charges." Mr. Thompson nodded, his jaw tight. "This stops today." They took me back to their house, the car ride silent except for Fiona's muttered curses. When we got there, Mrs. Thompson cleaned my face with a warm cloth, her hands steady but her eyes wet. "I can't believe they let it get this far," she whispered, more to herself than me. Mr. Thompson was on the phone with the police, pacing the kitchen, his voice low and firm. Fiona sat cross-legged on the couch beside me, her laptop open. "I'm finding every post Alex has ever made," she said, her fingers flying over the keys. "If she's dumb enough to brag online, we've got more ammo." I managed a weak laugh, the pain in my ribs flaring. "You're relentless," I said. She grinned, fierce and unapologetic. "For you, always." The police came later, 2 officers, Sanchez, a stocky man with a buzz cut, and Mills, a tall woman with a notepad, taking my statement in the living room. I recounted every detail, my voice shaking as I described the closet, the punches, the threats. Sanchez frowned, scribbling notes, while Mills asked, "Any prior incidents?" I hesitated, then nodded. She's always hated me. This was just worse. They exchanged a look and Mills said, "We'll review the footage and talk to the school. You've got witnesses, should be solid." As they left, Sanchez turned back. "Stay safe, kid. We'll handle it." That night I lay in Fiona's guest room, my room now really, staring at the ceiling, the ache in my body a dull hum. The Thompsons had insisted I stay permanently, and emancipation talks were moving fast, but Alex's words echoed in my head. "This isn't over." I knew she meant it. Fiona slipped in, sliding under the covers beside me. "You're not alone in this," she whispered, her hand finding mine. "We've got your back, me, Mom, Dad, Ethan, even that grumpy janitor." I smiled despite the pain, squeezing her hand. "Thanks," I said, my voice thick. But deep down, I braced myself. Alex wasn't done, and neither was I. The next morning, a new player stepped in. Mrs. Calloway, my English teacher, a wiry woman with wild gray curls and a sharp tongue. She'd heard about the fight and pulled me aside before class. "Mia," she said, her voice low, "I saw you lingering yesterday. If I'd stayed, maybe—" She trailed off, guilt flickering in her hazel eyes. "It's not your fault," I said quickly, but she shook her head. "I'm writing a report for Reynolds. Alex has been a problem too long. I've seen her bully others. This ends with her, not you." Her resolve surprised me, and I nodded, grateful for another ally. By Monday, the school was buzzing. The footage had leaked. Someone, probably Ethan, had spread word, and kids whispered as I walked by, some staring, some avoiding my gaze. Alex and her crew were hauled into Reynolds' office, and by lunch the verdict came. Alex got 6 weeks suspension, community service, and a misdemeanor charge. Taylor got a week, Leah and Cassie detentions. Fiona relayed it all, grinning over her sandwich. "Prom's toast for her," she said. "Karma's sweet." I laughed, my bruised ribs protesting, but it felt good. But the chaos wasn't over. That afternoon, Helen called, her voice urgent. "Mia, your parents are freaking out. They got wind of the charges and they're blaming the Thompsons, saying they put you up to it." My stomach sank. "They're coming for me?" I asked. "Not if I can help it," she said. "I've got more letters, proof they've neglected you for years. We'll bury them if they try anything." I hung up, my hands cold, and told Fiona. Her eyes narrowed. "Let them come," she said. "We're ready." The rest of that day after the fight felt like a blur, a haze of pain and fear that clung to me like damp clothes. I sat in the principal's office, my cheek throbbing under the ice pack Ethan had grabbed from the nurse, while Principal Reynolds' stern voice cut through the fog. She was on the phone with security, her glasses slipping down her nose as she barked orders to pull every angle of the footage. Ethan sat beside me, his knee bouncing nervously, his red hair a wild mess from running his hands through it. "They're screwed," he whispered, his blue eyes wide with a mix of awe and worry. "That camera by the east wing, it's got everything." I nodded, but my stomach churned. Telling on Alex felt like poking a bear, one that was already wounded and furious. I knew her well enough to know she'd strike back harder, suspension or not. When the Thompsons arrived, Fiona barreled in first, her dark bangs falling into her eyes as she threw her arms around me, careful not to jostle my bruises. "Mia, what the hell?" she breathed, pulling back to scan my face, her green eyes blazing. Ethan said it was bad, but this... She trailed off, her hands hovering like she wanted to fix me but didn't know how. Mr. Thompson followed, his broad shoulders tense, his normally calm gray eyes stormy with anger. Thompson was right behind him, her warm brown curls framing a face pale with shock. "Who did this?" she demanded, her voice trembling on the edge of tears. "Alex and her friends," I said, my throat raw, the words scraping out like broken glass. "They cornered me after class." Fiona's fists clenched. "That psycho," she hissed. "I'll kill her." Mr. Thompson put a hand on her shoulder, his voice low but firm. "We're handling this legally, Fiona. Mia, we're taking you home and we're calling the police." Mrs. Thompson knelt beside me, brushing my hair back with a tenderness that made my chest ache. "You're safe with us now," she said, her eyes wet. "This ends today." The ride back to their house was quiet, save for the hum of the engine and Fiona's occasional muttered curses about Alex. My head leaned against the window, the cool glass soothing my swollen cheek, but my mind raced. I kept seeing Alex's fist, Taylor's smirk, the dark closet swallowing me whole. When we got home, Mrs. Thompson set me up on the couch with a blanket and a mug of tea, her hands steady despite the fury simmering in her expression. "I can't believe they let it get this far," she whispered, dabbing a cut on my lip with a warm cloth. Mr. Thompson paced the kitchen, already on the phone with the police, his deep voice clipped and urgent. Fiona plopped down beside me, her laptop open, her fingers flying over the keys. "I'm digging up everything," she said, her tone fierce. "If Alex posted one word about this online, we've got her." I managed a small smile, my ribs protesting as I shifted. "You're a menace," I said, and she grinned, unapologetic. "Only for you." The police arrived an hour later. Officer Sanchez, a stocky man with a buzz cut and a no-nonsense frown, and Officer Mills, a tall woman with sharp eyes and a notepad. They sat across from me in the living room, the soft glow of the lamp casting shadows on their faces. "Start from the beginning," Mills said, her pen poised. I took a shaky breath, recounting it all, the empty hall, Alex's taunts, Taylor's grip, the closet, the beating. My voice cracked when I got to the part where Alex slammed my head against the wall, and Fiona squeezed my hand so tight it hurt, but I didn't pull away. Sanchez scribbled notes, his brow furrowed. "Any history with her?" he asked. I nodded, my throat tight. "She's hated me forever. This was just... the worst." Mills glanced at Sanchez, then back at me. "We've got the school's footage on the way. With witnesses, this is solid. Stay safe, kid. We'll take it from here." As they left, Sanchez paused at the door, his voice gruff. "You did good coming forward. Don't let her scare you." That night, I lay in the guest room, my room now, with its soft blue walls and the faint smell of lavender from Mrs. Thompson's laundry, staring at the ceiling. My body ached, a dull, persistent throb, but my mind wouldn't stop. Alex's words looped in my head. "This isn't over." I knew she meant it, and the thought sent a shiver down my spine. Fiona slipped in, her silhouette framed by the hall light, and crawled under the covers beside me. "You're not alone," she whispered, her hand finding mine in the dark. "Me, Mom, Dad, Ethan, we've got you. Even that cranky janitor's on your side." I smiled despite the pain, squeezing her hand back. "Thanks," I said, my voice thick with gratitude. But deep down I braced myself. This was war now, and I had to be ready. Monday morning hit like a freight train. The school was a buzzing hive of whispers and stares as I walked in, my hoodie pulled up to hide the bruises blooming across my face. The security footage had leaked. Ethan later admitted he'd tipped off a few kids, swearing it wasn't intentional, and by lunch, everyone knew. Kids parted around me in the halls, some gawking, some avoiding my eyes like I was contagious. In the cafeteria, Maya, my quiet friend with the dark braids and sharp wit, slid into the seat across from me and Fiona, her brown eyes wide. "Is it true Alex got you in the closet?" she asked, her voice low. I nodded, poking at my sandwich. "Yeah, her and Taylor's crew." Maya whistled, leaning back. "She's unhinged. I heard Jake's telling everyone he dumped her over it." Fiona smirked, popping a grape into her mouth. "Good, let her crash and burn." By noon, the hammer dropped. Alex, Taylor, Leah, and Cassie were hauled into Reynolds' office, their shouts echoing down the hall as security escorted them. Fiona got the scoop from Ethan, who'd lingered near the admin wing, and relayed it to me after school. 6 weeks suspension for Alex, she said, grinning as we sat on her porch steps. Community service, misdemeanor charge, no prom, no finals with her class. Taylor's out a week, Leah and Cassie got detentions. It's over. I laughed, a sharp burst that made my ribs ache, but it felt like a weight lifting. Karma's real, I said, and she nodded, fierce and triumphant. But the storm wasn't done brewing. That evening, Helen called, her voice tight with urgency. Mia, your parents are losing it, she said. They heard about the charges and they're blaming the Thompsons, saying they brainwashed you into all this. My stomach sank, a cold dread settling in. They're coming for me? I asked, gripping the phone. Not if we stop them, she said, her tone steely. I've got more letters. Years of proof they've neglected you. If they try legal crap, we'll bury them. I hung up, my hands trembling, and told Fiona. Her eyes narrowed, a dangerous glint in them. Let them try, she said. We're ready. The next day, they did try. My parents showed up at Fiona's again, this time with a lawyer in tow, a slick guy named Mr. Pearson, all polished shoes and fake smiles. They pounded on the door, Dad's voice booming. We want our daughter back. Mr. Thompson opened it, his frame filling the entryway, his face hard. She's not yours anymore, he said, crossing his arms. Mom's voice rose, shrill and frantic. You've turned her against us. We'll sue for custody. You can't steal her. Pearson stepped forward, adjusting his tie. We've got grounds. Emotional distress, defamation from that party. Hand her over, or we escalate. I peeked from the hall, my heart racing, but Mrs. Thompson moved faster, her warm presence at my side. They're bluffing, she whispered, her hand on my shoulder. We've got proof, too. Mr. Thompson didn't budge. You abandoned her, he said, his voice like granite. Left her alone on her birthday, let your other kid beat her bloody. You've got no claim. Pearson smirked, but Dad's face twisted with rage. She's lying about everything, he shouted. She's a brat who ruined us. That's when Helen arrived, pulling up in her beat-up sedan, the shoebox of letters under her arm. She strode up the steps, her gray-streaked hair wild in the wind. Lying, huh? She said, her voice cutting through the chaos. I've got 15 years of your own words, Lisa, calling Mia a mistake, complaining about her every chance you got. Want me to read them in court? Mom's face went white, Dad's jaw dropped, and Pearson's smirk faltered. We'll see you in court then, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. They retreated, piling into their car, and I exhaled, my knees weak. Helen winked at me. They're scared now, she said. We've got this. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. The Thompsons pushed my emancipation forward, their lawyer, Mr. Garrett, a wiry man with a quick grin, working overtime. Helen handed over the letters, each one a nail in my parents' coffin. The school fallout hit Alex hard. Her suspension stretched into rumors of expulsion when Taylor ratted her out for planning the attack, desperate to save herself. Jake testified to the police about Alex's threats, his guilt driving him to turn on her completely. My parents' lives unraveled. Dad lost his job when his client pulled out. Mom's social circle shrank to nothing, their perfect facade shattered. They fought the emancipation, but the judge, a stern woman named Harris, saw the footage, read the letters, and heard my story. No parent worth the name does this, she said, her gavel slamming down. I was free. The Thompsons adopted me a month later, the paperwork signed in their cozy living room, Fiona whooping as she tackled me in a hug. Sisters for real, she said, her grin lighting up the room. Mr. Thompson clapped my shoulder, his eyes misty, and Mrs. Thompson pulled me into a warm embrace, whispering, You're home. Helen toasted with a coffee mug, her smirk triumphant. You burned their world down, kid, she said. Proud of you. Ethan and Maya threw a small party at Fiona's, balloons and all, and even Mr. Vega showed up, grumbling about the noise but slipping me a candy bar with a nod. Tough kid, he muttered, and I smiled. Alex, though? She spiraled. Suspension turned to expulsion when the school board reviewed her record. Years of bullying, all documented by Mrs. Calloway and others who'd finally spoken up. Her friends ditched her, Taylor flipping sides to dodge more trouble, Leah and Cassie fading into the background. Jake's public breakup left her a pariah, and whispers followed her everywhere. Online, in town, relentless. My parents tried to save face, sending me one last email. You've destroyed us. Hope you're happy. I deleted it, my hands steady. They'd built their lives on lies, and now they'd crumbled, alone and bitter, while I stood taller than ever. Looking back, I learned something brutal but true. Family isn't blood. It's who fights for you when the world turns dark. I spent years shrinking, thinking I deserved the shadows, but standing up, even when it hurt, gave me a life worth living. I'm not done yet. High school's a battlefield, and scars don't fade overnight. But I've got Fiona, the Thompsons, Helen, and a strength I didn't know I had. Alex and my parents? They'll claw at their ruins, but they won't touch me again. The future's mine to shape, and I'm just getting started. So, what do you think? Have you ever faced a moment where you had to burn it all down to build something better? Drop your story below. I'd love to hear it. Let's keep this fight alive.